Welcome everybody to the Backdrop Users Group meeting. Uh, we'll quickly introduce ourselves and then get on to the main act. My name is Luke McCormick. I'm known as Cell Ear on various internet forums, and I'll leave with that and toss it to Tim.
This is Tim. I'll go ahead. My name's Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim on the internet. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota. And in case we don't get to mention it earlier, getting ramped up for Backdrop Live in about 3 weeks, April 3rd and 4th, I think. So see you all at Backdrop Live. Should we jump to the other Tim Stalker?
Tim Stalker. I work for CU Denver, one of the colleges, liberal arts and sciences. And I'm John Quest on the internet.
Joseph, do you want to go?
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a Drupal and Backdrop developer from Las Vegas, Nevada. And yeah.
And people are not picking the next people. Irina, and then Martin.
Hi, I'm Irina Zaks. I'm here to watch this wonderful combination of two modules to be able to build recipes quicker.
Hey, Martin.
Hi, Martin Price, Yorkshire Pudding around Backdrop, and just interested to see how this works.
Hey, Nate, do you want to introduce yourself, and then Justin?
I'm Nate Lampton from Oakland, California. Quick sketch on the internet. I'm the technical project lead for Backdrop, and I'm just here to watch.
Your mic seems quieter now, Nate, but Justin and then Izzy.
Hey, Justin Kaiser, developer, Muncie, Indiana. And I think we added an issue of mine, a PR, to make this thing work with database configuration today. So it's awesome right now.
Right, Izzy.
Hi, I'm Izzy from Vancouver, BC in Canada, West Coast. I'm here to see what I can learn. I've been playing with the module a bit and it looks good.
Hey, I think, is that everybody other than Robert? Well, Robert, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and then jump right into your topic and your demo.
Yep. Robert Garrigos. I'm based near Barcelona, Catalonia, and I just run a small web shop, one-person web shop. I'm building sites mainly with Backdrop and other free software projects as well. And want to talk about config deploy, how I use it, how I thought of it, because I normally, as many of you, I guess, develop all my features for my clients in my laptop, and then deploy them in a staging site and later in a production site. And it is, it is kind of hard to do it with the normal GUI, graphical user interface of Backdrop, because you have to download each individual site and you have to know which file, and you have to know which files you have to download to replicate, to deploy your new feature to a new site or to an existing site. So I just managed to get this config deploy module, and just sharing my screen. So I hope you see it now. Yep. Is that okay? Yep. Are you in?
Yep.
Okay, great. So, and how you can use it with your recipes. So let's go ahead. I'm glad to see that there are some people using it already. So config deploy is a module you can deploy partial configuration of a site through the backdrop GUI and in a single upload file. And those words, partial, the backdrop GUI, and single words are key, because this is the URL of the module. What are the alternatives? What can you do now without this module? You can use partial, you can deploy partial configuration with Git and B, so no graphical user interface, which means you need to be comfortable with Git and B, and not everybody is comfortable with that, or you have to have it in your server. You can do a partial configuration deploy with GUI, but not in a single file, with the actual with Backdrop's core functionality. You have to do it one file at a time, and you have to know which files need to deploy. And when you have, as I found myself once, you have, let's say, 3 new content types with a dozen of new fields for each content type, then a couple of views, and you end up having to deploy some 60 config files, which is a lot. And you have to know which ones you have to deploy. And the other feature you have already in Core is doing a deploy of a whole configuration file, which is no partial. And you can do it on the first time you deploy a site, but if you do it with further new features, it's a bit difficult. So with this module, the deploy process is as this. You just have to install config deploy in all your sites, devel, staging, and production. But you only have to do the configuration of the config deploy module in your devel site, which means you have to set the private file system. That's all. Okay. Then you have to create in your devel site a snapshot of your actual configuration before doing any new feature, and before building any new content type or adding new feature to your site. So that would be your based configuration. That's a snapshot. Then make changes in devel. And when you are ready, you can deploy your files, your config files, which will be taken from the differences from the snapshot. Then import the deploy file into the staging or production site, and that's it. If you have to add new features for the same site, just return to step 3, create a snapshot in devel, and again, and so on. And this is the step. And so we are going to see this in a real situation. We are going to create a new content type called Composer with just title and body, a new content type score, title, body, and a Composer field, which will be a reference field for the previous Composer content type. And we have another field for the score. It will be a PDF. So we'll need a new module, which is a core module, identity reference. And I think that's it. So let's do it. I have 2 sites here. This is my devel, and this is my staging or production, whatever. They are just default installations, and this is working now with the file config file storage. But it's as Justin said, it is working with database as well. So this is just a normal backdrop with, sorry, it is in Catalan, but I guess it doesn't matter. you have the three normal default content types. So let's go to create the content types. The first one would be composer, title and body, and score. And let's add, okay, we'll need the anti-reference module to be on. Yeah. So we have a composer field, which will be, oh, sorry, I forgot something. I knew it was going to forget it. So I'm going to reset this. But yeah, so that's the beginning. I'm at the beginning again. I needed to, okay, of course, I didn't show you that the config deploy is already active. So I need to, this is the debug side, so I need to first create a snapshot. Okay, so just create a snapshot. We have a snapshot created this time. There are no differences with the from the active configurations with the snapshots, of course. We just done it. So let's do to add the new content types. Okay, that's without just title and body. And score. Okay, we need again to entity reference. Okay, now composer. That would be a composer node type. And we'll say unlimited, just in case there are two composers for this score. And this would be a file. And would be a PDF. That's it. Very, very basic. Now we have two okay, we have two new content types. Giovanni, Mozart, and we just upload the score here. That's it. We have the two content types here. And if now we decide this is the functionality we want to deploy, so we just go to the deploy config page. And here you can see the new configurations added since we created the snapshot. So all the field config files for the fields and instance and node type, and two configuration changes for permissions. These are new configurations and these are just modified files. Now we decide this is the configurations, the functionality we want to deploy. Just download deployed file. Let me first. So, okay, we have a deploy file. Okay, now we have in our staging side, we need to activate config deploy module here. There is nothing else to configure here. And in fact, we have to go to the full import export with this is a core page. So, and add the deploy file. Just do a stage import. Okay, and this is the synchronized page with just a couple of new things. first thing is that you see the new files which will be imported, the ones modified, and then here as a normal import, Backdrops it's thinking you are going to import the whole configuration, but we are not. We're just importing a partial configurations. So the module config deploy module modifies this form, so it puts all the deleted config files in this field set. Just you can see which are the missing config files in your uploaded file. And this is another field set with this setting, which need to be like this, just unset. Otherwise, if you click here and import these configuration files, Backdrop will delete all these config files because they are missing, but we don't want this. So this is the modification that the config deploy makes to the core functionality. Then once we have this, just import. And what happened here, we haven't activated the entity reference module. The name here is missing. I have to see if this is a problem with config deploy or something else. But the only thing we have to do is entity reference, activate it, and import again. Right, nothing else to, but you have here the composer and a score. Okay, so barely. Let's have it at Don Carlo. Okay, that's it. So we just replicated, deployed our functionality from our devel site to our staging or production site. Now, what happens if we need to create some new functionality? For instance, let's say that we want to show the label here of the composer. Okay, we have to apply this here in Devel, but before that, we need to go to development and to the deploy config page and delete all this, because we need to create a neat snapshot. And all these files are in a folder within the private file system. So we just have to delete this and create a neat snapshot. Now, when we create something else, we change something else, we wanted to show here, change this. We wanted to show this, isn't it? For instance, okay. So now we can go here. We have the label here, right? And staging doesn't show the label. So now we go to the deploy config page, and we have here the 3 modified config files used for this change. So just let's go to deploy this. Oh, we have a new deploy file here, and just need to repeat the same import thing as before. This is the second one, stage import. We have the 3 files here, of course, all the deleted, which we won't delete them, of course, just import. And here we have, that's it. That's actually everything this module does. And what else? Yes, I think that's it. So how can we use this with making recipes? Okay, Recipes are collections of configuration files to make our life easier. Yeah, I read this, I think in GitHub, and the GitHub page of the recipe somewhere. Don't remember where. Jen wrote this, I think. And that's true, yeah. Yeah, if you want to know more about recipes, there's new here in the backdropcms.org site. I think it was written by Tim, yeah, was it? And it's a good page to know more about recipes. I guess all of you know about them. So how to collect? The thing is, we have deployed 2 content types with just a couple of new fields, and they were the beginning it was 11 new files and 3 new files later. So with just those is very small new features, we had 11 or 12 new files to upload. So if you do this to make a recipe, you need to know what are those files, and the good question is, how do we collect those config files, right? Well, config deploy does that job for you. How does it? Okay, let's see how. Now let's go to see what is in this deploy file, which is just a collection of the modified and new config files, you see. And when we do a recipe, as you already know, you need to create this. We are going to, let me see if this, okay, yeah. I'm going to write a recipe called musical score recipe. We have this composer and score content type. Okay, so this is my MSR musical score recipe here. We need this .info file with this very basic information, with a dependency, of course, of the entity reference. And we have a .module file, empty one, and there is a .install. I'll show you later what is in there. And of course, like any module, you can have your config files here, which will be installed in your sites when you install the recipe. And these config files has to be these config files. So just on tar, you deploy tar file and put all these config files in your config directory within your recipe. Okay. And then let's go to our staging site or production site, and let's do a reset of this site so we get rid of all this content type. By the way, I'm doing this with the demos, with the demo module. So I'm going to reset this. So we have no more score or composer content type here.
Can I interrupt you, Robert?
Pardon?
Can I interrupt you quick and ask a question? You said you're doing
sure.
that part with the demo module.
Yeah.
Did you just bundle the demo? Are there requirements? Do I need to install?
No. Just the demo, just using it to do this demo. You don't need the demo site.
Oh, I see. It's not a part of the it's not a part of the process.
No,
But
not at
the
all.
creating the snap, but you're I mean,
The
oh
problem
yeah,
is
forget it. I
the
get
problem
it.
is
Never
that I'm calling a snapshot to 2 different things.
Yes,
That's
I
the
just
problem.
realized. I just
Yeah.
realized that.
Yeah, when I reset the site with the demo site, I call it these snapshots. I realized, yeah, I know, but it's 2 different things.
Yeah.
This is a snapshot of the whole site, and the ones you do here it's with the config deploy is a snapshot of the config files only, no database. The demo site also creates a snapshot of the database. Okay, so we have now a default site. We need to music score recipe, which is, yeah, this one. Yeah. Let's do this. I don't want the install to be called. Let's go. So we'll see what's the problem. Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, but it is in the dependency. What's the problem? Entity reference. You must enable entity reference. Okay. I don't know what's going on. Okay, but it's okay. No, it's not okay. Music. Uh-oh. Okay, let's see. That's the demo effect. Okay, now it's good. You see, just with this recipe, which is only these config files within the config directory in your recipe directory, and with the info file and an empty module, and this is not working because there is a dot, so it's not being called. You have now a new composer and a new score content type, right? Now, what's the problem? The problem we have now is that we had in our config files, we had some new config files, which are these ones, and 2 modifications of a core config file without permissions. And when you install a recipe, the config files, the new config files are being installed, but the ones are already in core are not being modified. So if we go here, go to a score, you see these new permissions are created within the our devel site, because this is what Backdrop does in core. You create a new content type and it creates the right permissions for the editor administration roles. But we don't have those permissions here now. Even we created, because these config files are not being modified because they are core config files. So we need an instance file which modifies the user role administrator file and the user role editor file for permissions. And it's as easy as get the permissions key within that file, and to have your new permissions in an array and do a merge of the 2 arrays, and then set those permissions during the installation, right? So now that I have activated this install file, I just need to uninstall this and install again. Right, and we should have permissions. Okay, now, no. Let's see if this the no. Okay, let's Let's do uninstall. See. Easier. No, we have the content and permissions should be okay. Now we have the permissions for the both content types, right? And that's basically how you can use config deploy with recipes. What's next? I was going to say just 2 days before that config deploy only worked with file config storage, but thanks to Justin, config deploy works now with both file config storage and database config storage. So big thanks to Justin for the PR, and which I merged today, and I created a new release today for the config deploy. And I left the module still in beta, although it's fully functional. I'm using it, and if someone else is using it here and have some experiences, can explain how it's going. But if you had any idea, suggestion, you can speak now or leave your ideas in the issue queue. And actually, this is all for me now. And you are free to give your opinions, ideas, suggestions about the module, questions you have. Any question?
I have 2 questions that are a little bit sidetracked. Can you share your screen again?
Yes.
One of the things I love about these demos is seeing little things in the background that different people do differently than I do. One of the things is you're using the environment module with the red, so the red bar and the blue bar,
Oh, yes.
depending on which environment you're in. And I
Yeah,
think
the
it's worth.
simple-
I don't use that. I think I should. But you might, if anybody was wondering about that, Robert, like when he was in his dev environment, it was a blue bar at admin bar. And when he was in his test environment, it was a red bar. And what module is that? Is it called?
That's called simple indicator, simple
Yeah.
environment indicators. Yeah.
Simple environment indicator. That's an interesting module. There was another thing you did that I've never seen before. When you did like reinstall module with the dev with devel. Can you show me that again? I didn't know. When do you use that? And I didn't know that was there.
Yeah, it's you need to the devel module.
Right.
And just go to the devel tool menu, reinstall modules, and just choose the module you want to reinstall.
So what exactly is it? So you had already uninstalled the module, hadn't you?
Yeah.
No, you would. Right.
Yes,
so why?
but
What does
I
that
did
do?
was here.
You're not sharing right now, Robert.
I'm not. Sorry.
No.
Oh, sorry. Now I'm sharing.
Yep.
Yep. Sorry, I missed a button. So yes, this is the devel tools menu here.
Yep.
Okay. The red bar you were talking about. So just reinstall the module and choose the module you want to reinstall. What it does, it just run the uninstall hooks and install hooks again. Okay.
Okay, so you could do that without this just by uninstalling it. It just helps you skip that.
Yeah, just need to go here. But it's 2 clicks and then uninstall and say here it's 4 clicks, 5 clicks. Until so it's just quicker.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the blue bar.
I realize those were off the point, but I just think it's interesting to pick up these little tidbits. Going back to the main issue, So Irina was asking about, before we got there, that there's really, in the first case, you were using this a little bit like features, right? You were creating
Yeah.
kind of a feature that you
Yeah.
could just use to move config from one site to another.
Yep.
And then in the second case, you were showing how to actually take that and put it into a recipe. And in this case, so a recipe is something that, for example, you could put up on backdrop.org.
That's it. Yep.
Right. Okay. One of the,
I'll just quickly correct you, backdropcms.org.
sure, thank you. Yep, a common mistake I make, sorry. Yeah. Well, so I just wanted to clarify that, right? That basically, at their heart, recipes can be nothing but a module that is only config files, and Robert just demonstrated that. And you can use this tool to basically generate the config files that then you put into your recipe. Thank you, Justin. But then Robert also demonstrated that there are things like the permissions that if you want to get those right, then sometimes you have to do a little extra work. I know Joseph and I have talked a lot about that. It would be really great if we could figure out a way that we could also update config files. But that gets very complicated, and there's lots of problems there.
There's a very good question about updating changes in addition. I think one of the things about recipes was that it is different from regular modules. But I'm not sure. I haven't really used recipes myself yet. But that's something that we probably will be using a lot. So I don't know whether it is correct or not.
In backdrop,
If
regular.
I get
Go ahead.
No, like if I get new version of a module, regular module, not the recipe, that has different permissions, do I need to reinstall it or it will be installed automatically?
The difference at the moment between a recipe and a normal module is basically semantic. It's that we have decided that it's supposed to have configuration changes only, or like content and configuration and not new functionality. But there's nothing actually enforcing that at all.
But Irina is making another point, which is the point about there is a sort of a difference between a recipe and a regular module in that you can't update a recipe.
So that actually is the same with normal. So you can't use the config folder mechanism to update the config of an existing module. So
right,
you would have to write an update hook anyway.
But there is an expectation that a module might do that, whereas we have no expectation of that with recipes. Recipes are intended to be use them once and then they're done. You don't expect to get updates to your recipe. That is something we could talk about figuring out a way to do in the future, but there's a lot of problems with that. So right now, the idea with a recipe is that once you've installed it, you're never going to get in updates. It's a one-time set of changes. The recipe might get a new version, and the new version of the recipe might have new things in it, but you can't update your recipe. You can only install from scratch.
Right. And I think in Drupal, their recipes are essentially config files that it's the expectation is you run them while you're setting up your site and you don't touch them again.
Is that correct understanding that what Robert did with install function, or I'm not sure what was the correct name, that you do have an option to extend the recipe?
Correct. But that you'd have to write code specific to whatever changes you wanted. So if you want to assign
right. So if I'm
permissions or make any change, you could write an update hook as well. in your recipe in order to provide those updates. But as far as I'm aware, no one has actually done that yet.
Well,
Well,
it's a module, so you can do whatever you do in a module. It's
So I
just as Joseph said, it's just a semantic thing. We call it recipe, but
So I can create an overarching, say I have a website that has 5 content types, standard content types, news, events, profile, whatever. And these are all recipes. Then at
Mhm.
some point I decide I want to extend, say, profile.
Right.
If on my site, I have an overarching module that says, please pull down this recipe and update existing content types, it can be done on the higher level, but not in it. I don't have to have it in the recipe, but I can run it from the higher level. I
Yes.
mean, it's software.
Yes, you
No.
could have a module with an update hook that you like pull in a recipe and then modify that recipe automatically using an update hook.
I think that's kind of functionality that I wanted to make sure it is possible to implement, because if I'm trying to put together, I don't want to call it neither distribution or profile or anything, but if it's like a more of a system that includes both recipes and modules, then that's probably will be somewhere at the higher level. Thanks a lot for providing details. And I did start a blog post, so these things can get also in print.
And I think in Drupal in the latest version, is it 11 or 12? I don't know. They changed the install profiles to essentially be recipe groups.
Sure.
So it doesn't. So yeah.
That's Drupal CMS. Distributions still exist.
okay.
Install profiles still exist, but
Sure. But I think the point isn't the, I'm speculating a bit, although I've heard this, is that they were talking about creating a process. So during installation, you could actually be shown like a batch of recipes and let you pick.
that's what
that
Drupal CMS does. If you
Right.
install Drupal CMS, you have a choice of like, make a
Right.
blog, make a event site, make
Yes.
whatever, and it installs those recipes for you.
Yes. This would be a great, it doesn't really have anything to do with Robert's tool, other than you could use those to make these recipes, but
That's
that
okay.
is a direction I'd like to, it would be wonderful if we could add something like that. So sort of when you're installing your site, you could pick different content types that you might want to include. Anyways, any other questions for Robert?
Good.
Robert, I don't know if I've got a chance to thank you face to face.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have been waiting for a tool like that for a long time. And I was
Good.
so excited when you did it. And now I'm disappointed that I haven't found time to use it yet. But I kept, my idea was like, once I had a tool like this, there's a bunch of recipes I could make. And because it just makes it a lot easier to create a recipe.
Yeah.
It isn't like the features module yet where it does everything. And we have, Joseph and I in particular have talked a lot about like what it would take to, for you to be able to pick like which fields you want to include in your recipe or something.
Yeah.
And we're not anywhere close to that, but this is a big step forward.
Mhm.
Izzy's asking a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. I've been just testing out the deploy module that you've created here, and I've also been using config in Git. But what I like here is that if you're working on a feature branch or something and you're developing it, this module gives you a nice way to kind of look at the changes and package them up into a zip, so that you've got that kind of as another way to look at what you're doing in the feature, and then possibly bringing these things in. I haven't done a lot with it, but I like what it offers. as a way to see those changes. And for people who are not using Git, it gives them another way to kind of look at the same kind of collection of the changes that have come about with the feature that you're developing. And like some things, if you're playing around with organic groups or something, you can easily have 40 to 50 configuration file changes, new ones and modified ones. So it's very handy. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That was the main purpose of this module, actually. Because I found myself, as I said before, once having some 60 config files to deploy, and one by one, and it was just a nightmare. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody, so there will be a session. So it seems like this is winding down and we're running out of time. So what I think we should do at this user group meeting is talk briefly about Backdrop Live coming up in a couple of weeks. April 3rd and 4th. And we do have a session on recipes at Backdrop Live. And one of the big developments in recipes is this module. So we'll probably talk a little bit more, and hopefully maybe we can get one or two. Robert, you have yet to make like a contrib recipe, have you?
Not yet.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you to just, doesn't have to be really fancy, something kind of basic, but see if you could make like a contrib recipe. It could just be you know, the composer score one seems a little bit niche, but maybe, I don't know.
Who knows? Okay.
Maybe maybe writer publication it could be, or something that's a little bit more general, but yeah, that would be cool. And we'll talk about that at Backdrop Live. Does anybody have a topic that they'd like to see at Backdrop Live that they want to mention right now?
I would like to mention PDF session. We talked about interest in having DDEV session at Backdrop Live, and Randy said that he will be there to answer more advanced questions. So we are very excited about it.
Hey, I'm showing the schedule right now. We've got that on currently at 11. Well, this is Central Time, by the way. The time blocks here are being displayed at Central Time. That's my time zone. If anybody goes to the schedule, you should see it in your own time zone. Let's quickly go through the other topics that are on here so far. We have a topic on documentation. This schedule is not necessarily fixed. Some topics may move between now and then. Others, like the DDEV one, are probably likely to stay there. Currently, this recipe session is scheduled in block 3. We have a session on campus drop, Backdrop CMS and education, one on different approaches to alt text. And I want to highlight this because 2 weeks from now, we're actually going to do a user group on this same topic. And Jen is, and that will be recorded, and Jen will give a presentation on this. And then we're going to do kind of a follow-up at Backdrop Live. So this session will be a follow-up to the user group session, which we're doing in 2 weeks. Block D would be sort of our European time zone. We're really looking forward to getting some topics there. Talk to Martin, he's helping to coordinate that. In block E, we have 10 tips for a better editor experience. We have a session on content access modules. Another making Backdrop CMS better for everyone. And in the final block, we have one on content moderation and content workflow modules. And we'll be talking about those. Really would like to get some more topics on the schedule. So looking for people to tell us what they'd like to learn about or talk about at Backdrop Live. Okay. If not right now, then as soon as you can, get us your topics. Any other quick announcements? Otherwise, I was going to announce that session 2 weeks from now, Jen talking about alt text. So I think that's good. I specifically requested that session because I have a website there. And for those who maybe don't appreciate what that's about, right now with sort of backdrop out of core out of the box, if you add alt text to an image, that alt text is tied to the node. So if I upload an image and I create alt text on an individual node, and then I put that same image in a different node, the alt text doesn't follow the image. It's you have to enter the alt text for each node. There is a core issue that Martin has been advocating for, to create a core issue which allows you to set sort of permanent alt text on an image, and then you can add the image to whichever node you want and keep the alt text. Now, Jen has pointed out that you can, with fieldable files and fieldable images, you can configure your images to have an alt text field that does follow it, right now. So you don't need a new core feature or a new module. There is sort of a process for adding alt text to images in core, but you need to know how to do it. And she's going to basically demonstrate how she does that. And then I think we might also talk a little bit about what we'd like for core to do regarding that. So that'll be our session in 2 weeks. Okay, so I look forward to seeing everybody. Is there any other, if anybody has topics for future user group meetings too, please let us know. I have a request. I'm going to throw it out there and see if other people are interested in this topic. Justin, are you still here? Yes, you are. Justin, I might need you for this topic. It's the key module and all of the issues around that. So right now I have a website with a, I'll go ahead and out myself. We had kind of a bit of a breach, and that somebody started using our SendGrid account to send out millions of spam emails about 2 weeks ago. And we got into a little trouble with SendGrid. So far, they've been cooperative and credited us some fees, but we're trying to lock down our system. And we're noticing that, for example, the SendGrid module does not, I think, it's the SMTP module allows you to enter a key into it, but it doesn't, I don't think it's compatible with the key module. And the key module is a way to securely store your keys so that they're not just in config files and vulnerable. And to be honest, sort of navigating around like how the key module may or may not work with other contrib modules. It sounds to me like contrib modules have to implement the key module. They have to become compatible with it. Mm-hmm. Is that roughly right? Okay. Anyways,
it's not a complicated thing to make it compatible, though.
Right. So I think we should talk a bit about that and maybe just best practices. I know we talked about this issue at Backdrop Live before, but I don't believe we have any recorded sessions on this. And so maybe if we did this at a future user group, we'd have a recording of this discussion. And there might be other security related topics we could include with that, but certainly how to store your keys securely. I think, is anybody else interested in that topic?
Yeah, definitely. I've got at least one module that has potential to store a key, and it'd be great to understand how to do that in a more secure way.
The Stripe module, by the way, also does not have that yet. There's a feature request to add that to the Stripe module.
I wouldn't make a module that didn't have that capability now.
Yeah.
If I had a key in it, I use them that way, but if I was making it and releasing it.
I wonder if there isn't even a core feature to sort of that something in core that could make this easier. I don't know. That might be worth talking about at Backdrop Live. But anyway, so that's one possible future topic. If you have any other thoughts on possible topics for future user groups, let us know. Okay, I have another meeting coming up. Oh, are you raising your hand, Justin, or just?
Nope.
Okay, that was just a freeze frame. Okay, thanks everybody for coming. I think we're going to go ahead and end the meeting.
Thank you. Great.